Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're tackling a really critical piece of national security that, is quietly on the verge of collapse. We're talking about the military's own repair shops. It's a story about helicopters, taxpayer dollars, and a system that might just be working against itself. Okay, so let's dive right in. We're going to focus on one key place, the Corpus Christi Army Depot. You'll hear it called CCAD. Now, this is the U.S. Army's main hub for fixing helicopters. And trust me, what's happening there tells a much, much bigger story. So picture this. Just a few years back, this single depot was an absolute powerhouse. It employed over 5,000 highly skilled people. We're talking artisans, technicians, engineers. These are the folks who can take a helicopter that's been through the ringer and make it fly like it's brand new. But then you see a forecast like this. Within a year, that number is projected to absolutely plummet to below 1,000. That's an 80% drop. This isn't just a little downsizing, it's a catastrophic hollowing out of a really strategic capability. So you have to ask, what is going on here? Is the work no good? Is the depot just failing? Well, the answer, according to our sources, is a hard no. The real story is way more complicated, and it points to a policy failure that frankly affects every single one of us as taxpayers. All right, to really get to the bottom of this, we first have to understand what places like CCAD actually do and why they're so fundamental to the military's overall strength. See, CCAD is part of what's called the organic industrial base. The easiest way to think about it is like the military's own in-house team of master mechanics. These 23 facilities give our armed forces a power that is absolutely crucial: the ability to fix their own stuff without having to rely on anyone else, especially when a war breaks out. And you got to hear this analogy from the depot's commander. He says the depots are like that reliable peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Always there, always dependable. But lately, it's getting tossed aside for fancier options that, might not be there when you really need them. And this is a great way to think about the core value here. The depots run on a spaceship economy. It's a closed loop where you repair, you reuse, and you extend the life of what you already have. That's the total opposite of a cowboy economy, where you just use something up, throw it away, and go buy a new one. So this is where it really hits home, right? The cost. A depot can take a helicopter worth millions, give it a complete top-to-bottom overhaul, and send it back out for another 25 years of service. And as you can see, that can cost half as much as buying a brand new one.
Half.
Okay, so if the depots are so valuable and they save so much money, why in the world is CCAD on the brink of collapse? Well, the problem isn't the quality of the work, and it's not the skill of the workers. It's the system itself. This is the number one finding from the sources we've looked at. Let me just repeat that. This is not a performance issue. It is a policy failure. The people are doing their jobs, but the rules of the game are broken, and it's creating a crisis that, honestly, everyone should have seen coming. Let's break down the 3 big reasons why. First up, the incentives are just completely backwards. Military program managers, they often get rewarded for short-term speed, for hitting immediate deadlines. And sometimes, hiring a private company seems more flexible and faster for a sudden need. So, work gets shifted away from the depots, even if doing that hurts our ability to repair our own gear in the long run. Second, and this one is critical, there's this vicious cycle going on. When a depot loses work, its fixed costs, keeping the lights on, maintaining the buildings, they get spread across fewer projects. That makes its official labor rate go up. And that higher rate then makes private contractors look cheaper, which then leads to even more work being moved away. It's a total death spiral. And number 3, and this one is a huge deal, it's about the military's right to repair. Very often, the private companies that build the equipment, they own all the technical data, the intellectual property. Without that data, the government's own repair shops are literally legally blocked from even bidding on the work. For example, right now, the Army can't even overhaul its own composite helicopter rotor blades because of these restrictions. So let's connect the dots here. Let's see how this one policy failure snowballs into a much bigger problem, one that really does affect our national security, our wallets, and the American workforce. Look, this isn't just some abstract debate. What's really at stake here is our national security. The ability to ramp up repairs during a major war. It's about taxpayer value, choosing the smartest, most cost-effective way to maintain our military. And of course, it's about thousands of good-paying American jobs and billions in economic impact. And this right here, This is the real kicker. These skills aren't learned in a week. It takes decades to build up this kind of expertise and the infrastructure to support it. Once it's gone, you can't just flip a switch and bring it all back when a crisis hits. It just doesn't work that way. Okay, so it sounds pretty dire, I know. But the good news here is that this is a fixable problem. The sources we looked at don't just point out the crisis, they lay out a really clear three-part plan for how to solve it. The proposed solution is actually pretty straightforward. It focuses on three key things: guaranteeing the depots have a stable amount of work, upgrading their facilities for the future, and getting rid of the unfair financial rules that put them at a huge disadvantage. First, you gotta protect the workload. This means actually enforcing the existing 50-50 rule, which says at least half of all repair work has to be done at government depots. It also means securing the military's right to repair by making sure technical data rights are baked into new equipment contracts from day one. Next, it's about investing and reforming. This means funding the modern facilities the depots desperately need to stay efficient. It also means fixing broken accounting rules, like letting depots write off debt from programs the government itself cancels. And get this, reforming a policy that slaps an average 51% surcharge on the very parts they need for repairs. So when you boil it all down, it comes to this one fundamental question. As a country, what do we value more? The appearance of short-term savings, or the long-term strategic power to fix our own equipment when failure is simply not an option? The future of our defense might just depend on how we answer that.